Well, humans, I started this podcast because I wanted to take a look at today's news, but with a different set of eyes. As we know, today's media is mostly about selling you something or some sort of hidden activism of some sort. And I like to take a look at the news, not only current, but maybe past events, with the set of lenses that we have now with our shared gaming experience. And let it be about the games, nothing else. Alright guys, welcome to Cartridge and Disc. And guys, this is a story I've been wanting to tell for a while. There's many videos out there on the Neo Geo cabinet and why it was so popular in Latin America. And a lot of people that are not from Latin America have made this this observation before. But what is it missing? It's missing the culture, right? It's missing a lot of the side stories of what made this cabinet so popular. First of all, when I say Neo Geo cabinet, what comes to mind? I mean, what series come to your mind, right? I mean, we could talk about Metal Slug. We could talk about Mark of the Wolves. We could talk about, I don't know, Sengoku 3, Samurai Showdown, and probably the most popular game in Latin America would be the King of Fighters, right? The King of Fighters. It was the game. There was no other game. Of course, there was Street Fighter, right? But the problem with Street Fighter was that it was a very expensive machine, and in Latin America, small shops would have to purchase it. There was very few shops who would have the credit to lease it, and in general, Neo Geo were more affordable machines with better terms. Right? And that's what I want to talk about today. You've heard the story before, right? But I'm going to tell you why this cabinet is so beloved throughout Latin America. First, let's go back to the golden age of the arcade, right? The Neo Geo cabinets stood out as a real dominant force, not only in America, but specifically in Latin America. And there's various factors that contribute to that, right? Specifically, the games would be one of them, but there was other key factors that really influenced the popularity of this machine. Number one was the economics of it. In Latin America, the Latin American market was very heavily influenced by, of course, the American Japanese markets. However, they didn't have the space in most places that you would have in the West, right, or in Japan. A lot of these stores, a lot of these convenience stores, you can think of them as small convenience stores. And these small convenience stores, they couldn't afford to pay up front $5,000, $6,000, whatever it was for an arcade machine. They would rather lease or get terms. But you can imagine these type of businesses that are only making, anywhere from $300 to $1,000 a month. Nobody's going to give them that kind of credit, right? Because what happens in Latin America, a lot of times the business is shut down and they'll sell everything inside. So, whoever's financing that to you has a lot to lose if you don't pay them back. But it was the versatility and upgradability of the machine that made it popular in those shops. Not only that, they could get terms. And the price of the machine was lowered compared to a single game machine of the top tier, whether it was Capcom or anybody else. And this is what you have to understand about the Latin American market in small shops. And I'm speaking in generalities here, but this would be applied to a lot of the population throughout Latin America. You don't have big stores, right? A lot of big stores, all around a single area. What you have is a lot of small shops. People tend to shop day to day, because people love to cook fresh. It's not only because it's, they don't want to spend a lot of money in one day. It doesn't all have to do with economics. It has to do with, some people, especially in rural areas, they don't have fridges. They don't need to have fridges because they have a convenience store, a small convenience store, 3-5 doors away. So you can just walk over there and they can get whatever they need pretty much at any time. And as youngsters, what would happen is your mom would send you to the store you know, and you would get to keep the change. You would buy whatever was needed for the day, and then you would sit there in the machine. What other kids would do, especially with the elder folks, they would offer their services and say, I'll go buy your groceries for you if you let me keep the change. And then they would, and that happens a lot, right? And then the kids would keep the change and play those machines. And the shop owners in turn had the ability to, rake in those profits, get friendlier credit terms, right? And that's where the versatility and upgradability of this would come in, because you have to remember this feature would mean that whenever more powerful hardware became available, operators could just enhance their graphics. They can modify the machines, plug in a new game. Not only that, they can hold multiple games, right? Multiple good games. Can you imagine in one machine you had, Samurai Showdown, you had King of Fighters, you have, Blazing Star in there, and, Mark of the Wolves. I mean, and now in some shops you would start getting 2 machines, right? So you would have up to 8 games in a single shop. So it was really, really economically advantageous for a lot of these little shops, and they just started popping all over the place, right? They really did. And it was also the quality and selection of the games. It's not only that they were readily available, it's not only that you could exchange them, but I mean, think of Samurai Showdown, for example. That's a great quality game. How many quarters did we spend on that? How many quarters did we spend on Metal Slug and games like that? And then, there was other games that were, they're still classics. Magician Lord, that thing's hard as balls, and it's still, talked about today. Shock Troopers, The Art of Fighting. I could go on and on. Remember Neo Turf Masters? That was another one. The Last Blade. We can go on and on here, with Aero Fighters and other games that came out that really stood out. But here's where the real legacy of the Neo Geo cabinet still stands out today. If you look at the fighting scene today, especially when it comes to King of Fighters, you have probably the biggest representation of Latin American players there with King of Fighters. And that's specifically because of this, because they grew up with these machines. If you look at a lot of players, whether they're from Brazil, Mexico, or other areas, that's exactly how they were playing these machines, right? There were some key factors that made it, but it had to do with that daily living. It had to do with those small shops. It had to do with going and buying groceries for your mom, on the daily, and hanging out with your friends, going after school. And, nobody was going to a big arcade. We were all living in this little small shops, spending 2 quarters at a time or whatever it was, and having an amazing time, not only playing ourselves, but watching our friends play. And what really made that machine stand out in that economy was the economic viability. It was the versatility and upgradability of the machines. It was the quality of the game selection. And by far, the Neo Geo cabinets, they left an indelible mark in the Latin American gaming market. And not only because of their unique features, but by offering cost-effective options to people who didn't have the means. And that helped expose the video game market to a whole new generation that otherwise would not have experienced it if all they had available was the larger 1-game cabinets. All right, humans, that's my story, and I'm going to stick with it. I hope I give you something to think about. I'm going to post the companion script that I made for this, which is members only, by the way. If you join the channel, you get to see these scripts ahead of time. You can contribute, do whatever, and you get to read them first. And now, here's a video based on that. You'll see the post somewhere along the way here within the next half an hour whenever you see this video. And I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I earned your subscription. Make sure to hit that like button. And if you'd like to, please subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.